Late in the summer of 2004, a team of archaeologists in Northern Ontario discovered canisters of film containing the most important footage in Canadian TV history. The long-lost episodes of Jimmy MacDonald's Canada. For a brief period in the mid-60s, Jimmy MacDonald was the most popular TV star in the country. 10 million Canadians would tune in each week. Then, disaster. After a major on-air meltdown, MacDonald succumbed to paranoia and mass delusion. He renounced television, the medium that had given him so much, so quickly. He decided to move to the Northwest Territories. Flying north, he took every episode of the show with him. Unfortunately, he wasn't trained as a pilot. The plane crashed and MacDonald was presumed dead. A somber Prime Minister Pearson addressed the nation.
There are millions of people tonight who, throughout the world, will feel that they have lost a friend.
MacDonald's body was never found. His hit show was thought to be lost forever.
My father, who never watched anything that wasn't political, never missed the Jimmy MacDonald show. And when those episodes were lost, it was like part of Canada was lost.
You know, when I began in television, Jimmy MacDonald was one of the people that I admired the most. I mean, I never saw anybody who did a better show.
There are really only two eras of broadcast journalism in this country. Before Jimmy MacDonald and after Jimmy MacDonald. He rewrote the book.
In the 60s, he was everything. And when he left, TV has never been the same. I loved you, Jimmy.
And now, for the first time in 40 years, CBC presents Jimmy MacDonald's Canada.
Good evening, Canada. I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I'm going to give it to you straight. There's an enemy stalking us. An enemy that's infiltrated our homes and workplaces. They call it technology, and it's got a dark side. In the past few years, we've seen a lot of what the news people call technological advances. But do they really advance our society in any way? Tonight, on Jimmy MacDonald's Canada, we're going to show you how technology is destroying our nation.
Man has finally reached out into outer space. The world's first man-made Earth satellite, Russia's Sputnik, has already logged more than 2 million miles, circling the Earth at 18,000 miles an hour.
Oh, they think it's a world of promise. Technology, they say, is going to take us to the moon. The space race is all the rage.
3, 2, 1.
These diagrams describe exactly how the Ruskies launched Sputnik. How they did it behind our backs.
In any language, Sputnik is a colossal scientific achievement.
What's the point of all this space travel? Do we want to live on the desolate moon? I don't want to have to put on a spacesuit and an oxygen mask just to go down to the corner store to buy my cigarettes and beverages. Snap out of it, Canada. The only thing these gizmos advance are research grants paid for by your tax dollars. Folks, what you're watching isn't from a science fiction movie set in outer space. It's happening today, right now, in your own backyard. It's the new Leva-Car from Ford. You see that futuristic woman strapping on her seatbelt? It looks like she holidays on Jupiter. It has no wheels. It rides on, get this, currents of air. And now she proceeds to just go around in circles. Well, isn't that an apt metaphor for technology? There she goes, around and around, going nowhere fast. Now, I'm not advocating a return to the horse and buggy days, though sometimes that doesn't seem like such a bad idea. But Canadians have become obsessed with futuristic travel. The so-called car of the future from General Motors was recently on display in Vancouver. Our correspondent, Rod Gillingham, has the story.
Hi, I'm Rod Gillingham. You probably think we're in a spaceship right now, but we're not. It's the XP500, the world's first free piston-powered automobile. Here to tell us about this car today is Mr. Phillips from the General Motors Research Laboratory in Detroit.
It's a pleasure to be in Vancouver. It is my first trip to this beautiful city. It is also the first time the XP500 has been on tour.
Exactly what is free piston power?
Free piston engine is principally a gasifier unit. And the hot gases from the engine are fed along a pipe along the side of the chassis to the rear.
Do you think I could see the engine that runs this car?
Yes, Rod, we have a duplicate of the engine mounted on the pedestal. Let's go take a look at it.
How do you open the door?
Well, press that lever that your arm is resting on. That's the boy.
That kid's going to grow up to be a fair reporter someday. For now, I like him because he works cheap. How much was that candy bar, Greg? Folks, the Canadian home has become littered with technological detritus designed to make life easier. As a result, we've become soft and flabby. Here's a new so-called wonder machine. Here's how it works. First, it's a vacuum cleaner. And yes, I'll grant you, it seems to be doing a reasonable job of cleaning that muck off the carpet. Now the same machine turns into a floor polisher, a floor buffer. Add a small attachment, and it becomes a hair dryer. That man seems quite happy to get his hair dried with his own vacuum cleaner. And here's a man putting 2 eggs in what is now a blender. And now here's another man sucking the eggs out of the blender with a straw. Friends, I'll warn you, this next clip is extremely disturbing. An example of what happens when technology runs amok, afoul, abreast of doom. Fortunately for us, this perverse use of innovation has not yet made our snowy shores. This sad story comes from Budapest.
Automation enters the nursery in this prediction from Budapest. One nurse at a central control panel will be able to manage a whole brigade of babies, and the tykes will spend happily antiseptic infancies untouched by human hands. They'll even be tucked into their cribs by remote control. Bringing up baby by push button, a grandiose conception indeed. But there's one flaw apparent in this brave new world. After the bottle, how are they going to burp him?
Folks, I'm getting a bit hot under the collar. Let's you and I take a break. But first, let's enjoy this advertisement from Canada's favorite brand, Provincial Cigarettes. Remember, if you're Canadian, you smoke Provincial.
He was a 60s TV guy, right? I don't really remember him, but I remember my mom used to have a big crush on him.
The only time I saw Jimmy is when my wife had it on.
Jimmy MacDonald was the best commentator I ever saw.
Welcome back. I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and tonight I'm explaining the evils of technology. It seems like every corner of our happy home has been squatted by new techno toys. Even the dear old gramophone has been bullied from its setting by new techno fetishes. Here's a report about the alleged great strides being made in high fidelity or hi-fi sound equipment.
Thousands of Canadians who 5 years ago couldn't tell the difference between a turntable and an ampere today are glibly conversant in the complicated jargon of hi-fi. Theirs is a language of preamplifiers, potentiometers, low impedance, rumble, wow, and variable reluctance magnetic cartridges. The ordinary record player's range is limited to 5 octaves. Hi-fi covers 9, the full range of frequencies audible to the human ear. At least 2 speakers are needed in a hi-fi system, a small one or tweeter for high notes, and a large one or woofer for the bass notes. Hi-fi fares are becoming part of our way of life.
Now we move from stereophonic to telephonic. Soon phone operators will be a thing of the past, on the scrap heap, out of a job. Soon people will be able to make their own long-distance calls without the assistance of an operator. Think I'm talking science fiction? Watch this report.
Some said it wouldn't work when it was born in Brantford, Ontario 70 years ago. Now the telephone reaches around the corner and around the world. In Central Ontario this weekend, another milestone in telephone history. Home-to-home or office-to-office direct long-distance dialing. The first call was made by Mayor Nathan Phillips of Toronto to Mayor George Helms of Ottawa. In less than 15 seconds, the call is routed, recorded by electronic brains, and passed in a flick of an eyelash to Ottawa. Mayor Helms is the first person in Canada to answer a dial-it-yourself long-distance call. This opens a new service for more than 2 million people in Ontario now, and in the near future will be extended to all the major centers in Canada.
Mark my words, friends. Soon dialing itself could go the way of the dodo. It seems too much work for some lily-livered Canadians to actually rotate their fingers. So scientists are working on this. A push-button phone from Philip Morris Electronics. What's next? Will the federal government send manicurists to each and every home to preserve our precious pinkies? When will the insanity end? Apparently never. Soon we won't even be able to think for ourselves. The electronic brain is apparently taking over. Exhibit A, reporter Bill Casey.
The push-pull key and mysterious number are all part of a 24-hour withdrawal system developed by Chubb, Mosler and Taylor Safes in Canada. It's called IDA for short, Identifying, Dispensing, Accounting. Once the customer has his key and code number, the bank gives him a separate account number and puts some money in his account. IDA units, which can be placed in airports, apartment buildings, shopping centers, subways, or almost any other location where crowds gather, are available to him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're linked to a memory unit in the central bank by telephone line. S.R. Acom, Chubb, Mosler and Taylor Vice President, explains how the customer gets his money out.
Now he has to enter in his personal number. So he puts that on the, rather like the typewriter keys that you see here, T716A. Which happens to be my personal number. Now you see it records up here $460, which means I'm taking 20 out. That's what I have left. I can't get my money until I've closed the door. Then I can lift this, and here I have my plastic container with $20.
This isn't science fiction, folks. I can only hope we'll stop short of making our withdrawals from some street-side machine. It's that time in the show for our lovely Marg Margison to present a lady's perspective. Here she is, with a woman's advice. Each week, Marg Margerson joins us to offer a woman's advice. Marg, tell us, what can we do to fight the onslaught of technology?
Well, Jimmy, the primary concern is that technology will ultimately destroy our humanity. Computers might replace actual brains. Machines might replace actual people. You might be home one afternoon waiting for your husband to return from work, and at 5:15, instead of your husband, in walks a machine man. A cold, unfeeling automaton who could never touch you the way a real man did. Or at least the way a real man did before you sacrificed the best years of your life for him, had 3 children, one right after the other, and gave up your career as a stenographer in exchange for the legitimacy of marriage. Please keep your minds sharp so you don't fall prey to the lure of technology, so the computers and machine man can't take over. I find that a rousing game of bridge or mahjong helps keep me mentally alert, as well as a recent nonfiction bestseller by Pierre Burton. Let's keep Canada great. Let's fight the onslaught of technology. Back to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Marg. Lovely. Absolutely. As I said, lovely. We'll be back after this message from our sponsor. Provincial cigarettes. What smooth flavor. What great taste. Remember, if you're Canadian, it's got to be Provincial.
When I first came to Canada in the 60s, I used to watch Jimmy MacDonald's show, and let me tell you, no one had political or social insight as Jimmy MacDonald had. No one.
And he was the most handsome guy I ever seen on the TV.
Hello, I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I hate technology. Folks, do you ever wonder who's inventing this stuff? Well, we have our own mad scientists right here in Canada. Here's a look at that group of reckless inventors. Here's Morrison Kirk of Lakeview, Ontario. His specialty, a frying pan designed to spread heat evenly. The result? The eggs either get burned evenly or come out just right. Then there's the frying pan that keeps the bacon warm on the lid while the eggs cook merrily away underneath. The inventor, Mrs. Audrey Brown. She's also a mother of 2 and a hospital receptionist. Charles White of Toronto has a pint-size invention for use after you finish the eggs. A dental floss container and dispenser. Just look at how it works. To reload this gadget, you just snap off like so. Like so. Oops, like so. No wonder it's called the Handy Flosser. Here's a new feature on the show, folks. We call it Outrage of the Week. I show you 3 pieces of film, then I tell you which one outrages me the most. First, robots. Don't like them. Never have, never will. Here you see one on display at the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto. Kind of an ugly fellow, if you ask me. Some people say that robots might take over the housework. Somehow, I doubt that. Robots. Outrageous. Now here's outrage number 2, one of the weakest innovations I've ever seen. They call them ball-bearing skis. It's called ball-bearing skiing, and you can see how it works. Insert some ball bearings on your skis, and then waddle around town like a Class A klutz. And finally, outrage number 3. From Avro Aircraft in Moulton, Ontario, the Avro Flying Saucer. A flying saucer that's designed to fly over rough terrain? I mean, really, folks. but which one of these innovations outrages me the most? Robots. No doubt about it. I'm outraged. Well, folks, that's it for tonight's program. I've shown you how technology is poisoning our lives and our souls. Call me a Luddite, call me old-fashioned, but come 1984, you won't find me taking an Avro flying saucer down a micro-rail highway to my job sending computer messages to Venus. No, I'll get to work the old-fashioned way, on my own 2 feet, walking to and from my car. Next week, the Jimmy MacDonald team takes a look at fashion in Canada.
She likes her sunglasses so much, she carries an extra pair in the pink and white gingham sundress. One for Arizona, one for Vancouver. Snow blindness can be so damaging.
From fashion shows for Fido to all this hoopla about the mini skirt. You've got to wonder, are Canadians becoming the vainest people on the planet? I'm Jimmy MacDonald, and I'm going to give it to you straight. Good night, Canada. Hug your children.